Abraham Lincoln, from dust to president. He had less than 12 months of school. He taught himself to read by firelight. He lost his mother at 9, his sister at 18. He failed twice in business. He lost elections. He buried a son. And then the United States of America handed him its most powerful chair. The dust, early life. The cabin had no windows, no floor, one door, 3 walls of logs, one side open to the weather, sealed only by a blazing fire at night. His father, Thomas Lincoln, was a frontier farmer, strong-backed but landless, chased from one plot of Kentucky soil to the next by legal disputes he couldn't win and couldn't understand. By 1816, when Abraham was just 7 years old, the family packed what little they had and crossed the Ohio River into Indiana, a wild region, bears in the woods, panthers screaming in the dark. Young Abe walked barefoot. He wore a shirt that barely covered him, and still he read whatever he could find: the Bible, Aesop's fables, the biography of George Washington, which he borrowed from a neighbor and accidentally left out in the rain one night. He spent 3 days pulling fodder, hard farm labor at 25 cents a day to pay back the cost of that ruined book. 75 cents total. That is who Lincoln was, even then. Then October 1818. Abraham was 9 years old. His mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, died of milk sickness, a poisoning from contaminated cow's milk that swept through frontier families like a quiet plague. There was no doctor, no ceremony, just a forest grave and a 9-year-old boy staring at the dirt. His sister Sarah, just 11, took over the household, 2 children, a broken father, a log cabin without a floor. January 20th, 1828. Abraham was 18. Sarah, his only sister, his closest companion since childhood, died in childbirth. She was 20 years old. When he received the news, Lincoln sobbed. He had lost the 2 women who loved him most, before he turned 19. The rising self-made. In 1830, 21-year-old Abraham Lincoln walked out of Indiana and into Illinois, on his own, for good. He took a flatboat down the Mississippi River to New Orleans. He worked as a store clerk in the small town of New Salem, Illinois. He wrestled the town bully and won. He was 6 feet 4 inches tall, lean as a rail with enormous hands. People noticed him not because he was refined, but because he was real. He ran for the Illinois state legislature in 1832. He was 23. He lost. He ran again in 1834. This time he won. He won again in 1836, again in 1838, again in 1840. While serving as postmaster of New Salem, he taught himself surveying. At night, by firelight, he studied law. No tutor, no university, no money for books he didn't borrow or copy by hand. He read Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England until the pages wore thin. In 1836, at age 27, he passed the bar. By the time he moved to Springfield and partnered with lawyer William Herndon, Abraham Lincoln had appeared before the Illinois Supreme Court over 300 times. His reputation, meticulous preparation, razor-sharp argument, a man incapable of deception. They called him Honest Abe. In November 1842, he married Mary Todd, the daughter of a prominent Kentucky slave-owning family. She had wealth, education, and social standing. He had a law practice, an iron will, and a mind unlike any she had ever encountered. They were not an obvious match. They were an extraordinary one. Consider the contrast for a moment. The men Lincoln would one day govern alongside senators, generals, cabinet members, had attended Harvard, Yale, West Point. They had studied Latin, traveled to Europe, inherited land. Lincoln had 18 months of broken schooling spread across his entire childhood. He described his own education as defective. He once wrote, in his own words, summing up his early life with a quote from a graveyard poem, as simply, "The short and simple annals of the poor." And yet, When Lincoln finally ran for U.S. Senate in 1858 against the formidable Stephen A. Douglas, the Little Giant, one of the most powerful Democratic politicians in America, Lincoln debated him across 7 Illinois towns in 70 days. He lost the Senate seat. But the nation had seen something it could not unsee. November 6, 1860. Abraham Lincoln, born in a dirt-floor cabin, self-taught, self-made, was elected the 16th President of the United States. He had never been given anything not land, not education, not a living mother, not an easy start. Every word he read, he hunted down. Every argument he made, he built from scratch. Every step upward, he carved himself. And when the country was breaking apart, it chose him. Lincoln led the United States through its bloodiest chapter, the Civil War. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring enslaved people in Confederate states to be free. He was re-elected in 1864. He was preparing to bind the nation's wounds. On Good Friday, April 14, 1865, just 5 days after the Civil War effectively ended, John Wilkes Booth shot him at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Abraham Lincoln died the following morning, April 15, 1865. He was 56 years old. He had come from nothing, not just poverty, but grief, isolation, and obscurity so deep that the world had no reason to expect anything from him. The log cabin was real, the barefoot winters were real, the dead mother, the buried sister, the borrowed books, all real. America did not make Abraham Lincoln great. Abraham Lincoln arrived already becoming great in a cabin without a floor, reading by the light of a fire that was the only warm thing he had. If this story moved you, subscribe, because next time we go even deeper into the lives of those who started with nothing and changed everything.